All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm Chris from 4th Shift Firefighter, and this is the Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast. Welcome back. Thanks for checking out on podcast apps, YouTube, wherever you're watching, or just these clips on Instagram. I dig it. Thanks. Let's get into this thing for today. First things first, if you like the show, you want to support it, you like me, don't have to, probably don't, there's a Buy Me a Coffee button on the website page, on the show notes app, all that stuff. Buy Me a Coffee, just quick donation. If you want to try out CBD, I got an affiliate with Rescue One CBD, 0.000 THC, safe for the job. All the benefits of CBD without the worry of failing a drug test. So go check those out. Discount code on the website and the show notes page as well. Also check out Project Fire Buddies. Project Fire Buddies is a Illinois-based, essentially Make-A-Wish program for terminally ill children. They do a ton of good stuff. Check out their stuff on social media. Project Fire Buddies. Easy to like them. I'll tell you that. I want to ask you guys a couple questions. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this book I'm holding up. It's called Firefighter Emotional Wellness, How to Reconnect with Yourself and Others, written by Jada Hudson. And if you're listening, you just heard the title. That book is written by, like I said, Jada Hudson, and I am fortunate enough to work for a department who contracts Jada Hudson. Now, who is Jada Hudson? I got to read on the back of this thing. Licensed Clinical Professional Counselor, it's LCPC. Special Training in Pediatric Death and Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. Certified Alcohol and Drug Abuse Counselor. She worked as a clinical director for the Illinois Firefighter Peer Support and was a clinical consultant for Operation Shattered Stars. She currently has a private practice in Illinois where I am located, and we have her come in first Sunday of every month to do some wellness check-ins. She came in the other day to just say hey, just say what's up, and give her kind of an overview of what she does, because it's a new contract she has with us. But I want to draw your attention, I think I wrote it down here, page 152 of your hymnal of this book. I'm in it. I wrote an article a long time ago, and it was all about stress and exercise and stuff like that, and Jada read it. And then she called me and said, can I use this in my book? So if you go to page 152, a little excerpt on stress and how exercise is good for controlling your stress and kind of becoming familiar with it and defining stress a little bit differently so we can use it and understanding what the chemicals in our bodies do, all that stuff, okay? But one of the things she talked about as well, which is what I kind of want to touch on quickly today, is the difference between you perceiving something and viewing something as a threat versus a challenge. And it's in the book, it's in a lot of teachings, but it's something that I hadn't thought about in a while. And the way Jada explained it was excellent, so I wanted to kind of echo her sentiments here and kind of break them down in my own little special way. And here's what it comes down to. On the surface level, as easy as it sounds, if you just consider something a challenge, adrenaline gets released, which is good. Adrenaline, good. If you consider it a threat, cortisol gets released. Bad. Cortisol is not in the daily dose chemicals, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and the endorphins that get released during exercise from the daily dose program, PDF on the website, all good. Cortisol is not. Cortisol is like the big belly, bloodshot eyes, stressed out hormone. It comes down to simply viewing these things as a threat or a challenge. And the self-talk is what it takes. If you look at something and say, this would be a cool challenge, I'm excited to get into this, you don't have a choice, adrenaline goes. If you look at something and say, that's going to be a threat to my livelihood, I'm going to get hurt, this is not good, I feel threatened here, cortisol automatically. You can't talk yourself out of it. It's your reaction to it and the way you kind of self-talk through it. Remember, your body is only reactive. Your body is never proactive. I'm sure you can find an example where you think it is. It's never proactive. It's always reactive, right? It reacts to stress. It reacts to environments. It reacts to things, and then it sets off a chain of events. Your body can't predict things. It only reacts to things. So if you feed it a threat in your self-talk and your perception of something, it's going to react to that threat and release the chemical that's appropriate, cortisol. If you view something as a challenge, it does the same thing. It reacts to what you're giving it, okay? Now, I'm going to keep this one tight today. Your ability to consider something a challenge or a threat comes down to your preparation, I believe. Okay, and your preparation comes down to your ability to project and expect outcomes and how you're going to deal with those outcomes, and have an outcome that you can expect that's within your capacity to absorb or control. That's what feeling prepared comes from, and that's where the idea that something is a challenge comes from. If you're up against something that you don't know the possible outcomes, you don't know how bad it's going to be, and you don't know if the worst case scenario is something you can survive or endure or bounce back from or whatever, that is more likely to be perceived a threat than a challenge. If you've been through the paces, if you've practiced something, even if you know that the outcome might be death or something dire, if you're comfortable with the idea of how to avoid that or what the different pitfalls are or the situations and scenarios, it still might be a challenge. Think of fighting a fire. Of course, worst case scenario, the ultimate sacrifice, right? We all know what that is if everything goes sideways and you get in a bad spot. But it's an extreme challenge as well. So we view these things as challenges. I would say that for a majority of firefighters, training is more of a threat than an actual fire is. And that's actually something that Jada said in her talk was, she says a lot of people that have a lot of issues with training, whether she needs to go into like sports psychologist mode and help them visualize their way through and explain that this is not the threat. Like this is a controlled environment and it should be set up for you to learn and grow and get better. So this is a positive thing. It's a challenge to help you succeed in the real world. But training's different because you're getting scrutinized, right? With a fire, no one's there for the first couple minutes and they all know you're doing your best and we all know things happen. So there's not less expectation, but there's more understanding if stuff doesn't go as planned. With training, it's typically more organized, more isolated, right? The constraints are a little bit tighter. So if you mess up on this one path that should be very simple, then you look like an idiot. And that becomes, there's a lot of stuff that comes with that, right? Whether it's from the training division, the chief, your peers, your own criticisms within yourself. So let me get back to this. Your ability to view something as a challenge as opposed to a threat comes down to your preparation. It comes down to mental preparation and physical preparation, okay? If I know that I can deadlift 315 pounds, just as an easy number, and there's a 200 pound person on the floor, I know the challenge is how do I do this the best way? If I can only deadlift 95 pounds and there's a 200 pound person on the floor, the threat is I can't do that. I'm going to get hurt. So if you're physically prepared to do the job, and I know that's a wide statement, whatever that hero stuff means that you're thinking of right now. If you're physically prepared to do the job, that means a lot of the physical tasks automatically turn into challenges, not threats, because you have the track record of accomplishing heavy stuff or challenging stuff. Or if you're big into Metcons and CrossFit, or if you're big into endurance, you know when you're pushing a hose line down the hallway, or you're trying to force a stubborn door, or you're cutting a vent hole and you're just gassed and you're just wiped out and you can feel the lactic acid starting to build and your heartbeat's running away from you. If you put yourself in those positions before to feel that way outside of firefighting, at least you can say to yourself, okay, I've been this tired before. I've been this fatigued before. I know it's going to be okay. I know I can take a break and it'll be okay, but I also know that I can keep working at like 50% intensity and it'll be just fine. If you've never gotten to that point in your training, and I mean separate physical fitness training most likely, you got no blueprint to follow. You have no confidence that you will be okay. You might think you're going to die because you're so tired, and you might not know that you won't because you've never pushed yourself that hard in training, whether it be fireground specific stuff or exercise specific stuff. Okay. Now mentally is not the easier one, but it's the more attainable one, I would say, because we have these things called visualization. We have tabletop drills. We have tailboard talk stuff like this episodes. We have all these things that you can sit still and do without the physical component and get your head wrapped around it. We have the assessment center. We have practice for that. We run through mega codes, SMOs, all that stuff. Very little physical barrier to accomplishing those tasks, but high mental barrier so we can train that stuff more readily. Okay, firefighting needs both. Not only do you need to make the right judgment call and know the SMOs deep into the SMO, you need to be able to physically do the heavy stuff while you're doing it. Okay. So how do we prepare? Visualization, okay? I don't want to cut this one short, but the camera's going to turn off any second because I failed to prepare the battery. So if you're watching on YouTube, sorry, you'll get the the black screen, but you can still have the audio after this. Okay. So the important question becomes, how do you prepare? Okay. And we're going to keep it simple. Okay. 3 things. First one is visualization. And in a couple episodes back, which was a repost of a bunch of episodes back, I talked about the 2 different kinds of visualization: process visualization and outcome visualization. Just like what they sound. Process visualization is you visualizing, putting your boots on, pulling your pants up, buckling your belt, throwing your radio strap on, your hood goes on next, your coat, all the way through from front to back of this evolution, where you put your hands on the loops, how you're going to shoulder the hose, all this stuff, right? Outcome visualization is knowing that it's just going to be a stressful evolution, it's going to be a hard push, but I'm going to imagine myself winning in the end. I want to imagine myself in the front lawn after we made a stop, or coming off the roof after we cut a good hole, or pulling hose or pulling ceiling afterwards and talking about how good a job we did. We're going to do outcome visualization. So going into it, maybe you're more likely to consider this a challenge and not a threat, because you have a positive feeling of, yeah, we're going to a fire. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be tough, but I have a positive feeling because I visualize these things going well so much more than poorly. And so preset, I know we're going to have a good time. Okay. Second one, hands-on training. And hands-on training specifically that tests your technical and physical ability. Not just can you run fast to the top of the tower, but can you flake out hose while you do it, or can you move the 2.5 up the stairs, stuff like that. Just heard the camera cut off. Sorry to my YouTube people, keep listening. We got 1.5 points left and we're out of here. Training that tests your technical and physical capacity. Okay, stuff that actually pushes you to a point of, maybe I can't do this, and you need the reps of pushing past that exhaustion point and still completing the task. Okay, that's going to give you the peace of mind, the security that when you're on the fire ground and stuff's going a little bit off, or you've had too many cups of coffee, not water, or you've been up all night and it's a 5 o'clock fire, that, okay, I've been tired, I've been dehydrated, I've been drained, I've had a racing heart before, I've had all these things and I've still succeeded in training, so I feel more confident knowing I can do it in the real deal, right? Now, the third part of this is having a separate fitness plan that feeds your mental and physical capacity. I'm already, if you listen to the podcast, you know I'm not an advocate of working out in fire gear. I think that creates a large disconnect between people thinking what they can do and actually having the skills to do it. It may be okay at building physical capacity, but a lot of people try to blend the two of, like, if I work out and do a Metcon in gear, I know I can then throw ladders and do searches in gear because I'm used to my gear more. I just don't see the connection between those two things. What I'd rather have you do is have a physical training plan, a regimen, a plan, something you're going to do, right? And build as great of a machine as you can that has the best strength and flexibility and aerobic capacity and all that stuff. And then build out some scenarios for you to train on that involve 2 and 3, 4 fireground tasks, and see, okay, if I do these at an actual fireground pace with a little sense of urgency, trying to get stuff done, rushing from one to the next, how do I feel after doing 4 things? How do I feel after going through a full vertical vent evolution, right? Manual tools. I'm going to throw a ground ladder, gather my tools, get on the roof, use my axe or my sledge, cut a hole, push it through, and then get down off afterwards. How do I feel after actually doing all that stuff and not just climb on the roof prop, knock 4 holes, cut a bad 2x2, and then never clip in and get off, right? Build I'll say it again, build as good of a machine as you can in the training ground, whether it's the gym or wherever you go for that, right? And then test those things on the training ground. So I said that backwards. Build as good of a machine as you can in the gym or whatever training facility you have. There it is. And then go test that machine with fireground specific tests and see how it matches up. Okay. And yes, there is some connection between, like I said before, I've been through these really hard workouts. Yes, I was wearing t-shirt and gym shorts and shoes, but I've been to the point where I wanted to lay down on the ground and just melt into a puddle. Now, when you're doing fireground stuff, you can tell, like, yes, this is very hard, but I've been into deep water before with my conditioning. So I know that. Take a break, get your head wrapped around it. You have the physical capacity to do this. Now focus on those specific tasks, okay? And that's where I think that disconnect is. We can talk more about it later, a different episode. That's where I think that disconnect is with working out in your fire gear and expecting that to translate over to those tasks, okay? So, hope all that made sense, or at least some of it, right? But be prepared. Be prepared. So if nothing else, get to a level of preparation that you can consider these things that happen at work a challenge and not a threat. And that will go a long way in your success, a long way in your health and longevity, a long way in your mental health, right? Not considering everything a threat. Not going to every situation of like, I hope I don't get hurt, or I hope the worst case scenario doesn't happen, or I hope whatever, right? Going into it saying, I've been in deep water before, I've been on tough calls before, I know we're going to come out the other side of this thing. It might be a little worse for the wear, but if we view this as a challenge and dig in and do a great job and all this stuff, it's going to be a positive, not a negative at the end of it, okay? Don't predetermine your threat before you even get into it, all right? Thanks for checking it out, guys. Thanks for listening. Hope it made sense. Reach out if you need to. Hit me on hit me on Instagram at 4th Shift Firefighter, number 4TH Shift Firefighter. On the website, go to the Buy Me a Coffee button, Rescue One CBD. Check out Project Fire Buddies. We got a bunch of stuff going on. There's free downloadable PDFs on the website, on the 4th Shift Firefighter website. There's one for Daily Dose, the 14-ish Strength Builder template, and the Firefighter Wellness Ladder. So go check those out as well. Thanks for listening. And as always, let's keep on working on being more capable and durable on the job and away from it. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.